The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Charitable Donation Account webinar to learn a little bit more about this account. If for some reason you are having trouble, you do need to enter the PIN that was sent, and I'll make sure that everyone receives those here shortly if I don't see you logged in. Also, I'm going to go ahead and unmute everyone on the webinar, so if you have background noise and want to mute yourself, you can do that on your end, but we want to make sure that you're able to ask questions. Mark is going to stop a couple times during the presentation to get any questions that you might have. Should be about a 30-minute presentation, and then you can ask during the webinar and at the end any questions that pop up, or you can type them in the question section of your display that you have. My name is Julie Lewis. I'm the current director for the Southeastern Credit Union Foundation, and I thank you for joining us again. We're excited. I think a lot of these charitable donation accounts are kind of misunderstood or not put out there as much as they should be or ought to be. So we're lucky enough to have Mark Wilson with us today from Tuna Mutual Group. He has been with them about 12 years and completely enjoys what he does. So he's excited to help us. They're a great partner. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mark to take it from here.
Hey, thanks a lot, Julie. Thanks for everybody joining and let me speak to you about the charitable donation accounts. And can everybody see my screen? I want to make sure everybody can see my screen that's currently up, and if not, I'll get Julie, my technical person, there at the league to help out. But I think I'm sharing my screen. Hopefully you can see what I've got up. I take that as a yes. Well, good deal. As Julie said, I've been at King Mutual about 12 years. Prior to that, I worked at a credit union here in North Carolina as president of CUSO, and then I've had a little bit of banking experience prior to that. But I've seen quite a bit of activity and interest in the charitable donation account, which is a fairly recent topic of discussion and a fairly good product out there and very compelling for a lot of credit unions. And so I want to go through this with everybody, and I'll stop about every 4 or 5 slides to see if there's any questions, and then if not, we can wait to the end to go through some questions as well. Our agenda today is to look at the current market trends of how these are being set up. What is a CDA, for short, charitable donation account? What types of investments can be utilized to help the charitable donation account work? And then obviously the wrap up and follow up and recap. And start with our market trends. Currently, credit unions are by nature very philanthropic, and so every credit union I talk to is constantly being asked to not only give back to the community, but most of y'all have it in your mission statement to be charitable in your endeavors throughout the community, and that's right now an expense on the credit union's bottom line. The investments that are utilized to help offset the CDA account are basically what we call impermissible or investments you don't normally utilize, such as what's in your investment portfolio. The return on these investments from traditional investments right now is fairly low. If you all definitely keep up with the markets recently, the Fed's not been looking to raise rates. I think the current 10-year Treasury is hovering around a 1.72. And we've seen a little bit of a flatter yield curve than we've had in the past, which is not as good for financial institutions out there. And so, in the past, credit unions have been limited in also how they could recognize their board director service for longevity. The CDA allows you to recognize your boards through the CDA account. Currently some market data, 63% of high net worth donors cite, the ability to give back to the community as a huge motivation for giving, and 60% of credit union leaders and employees say they wish they could, their credit union could actually give more. I haven't seen a credit union yet that doesn't get more requests than they can actually fund out there. And this is an audience poll. I think I know the answer to this. Do any of you all make contributions to 501c3 charitable organizations? And if this were in a live presentation, almost 100% the hands go up that you guys are very active in that. Pause there for just a quick second. I know I've just kind of started, but any questions so far? Okay, continue to roll. Charitable donation account. Who is it? What is it? Why do we want to use it? For the first time, the NCUA has come out with a rule, finally a rule that halfway makes sense. I know that's hard to believe, but they did come out and actually are allowing credit unions to set up investments to help offset the funding for their charitable endeavors. Right now, this rule allows credit unions to generate income through non-703 investments for donations to any 501c3 charity. In December 2013, the NCUA finalized Rule 721.3 for all federally chartered credit unions. And we'll get into the state charter credit unions and some of the state regulations out there as well. But this was established. State charters have some parity. Some of the state regulators currently have parity with the federal rules. I know Florida and Alabama, I think you have to ask ahead of time, but I believe that's going to be changing soon to set up a charitable donation account. But this is a good rule. Finally, I've seen one that came out that made some sense. What is it? What is a CDA account? It's basically an account you establish that's segregated in the credit union, and the rule is you can invest up to 5% of your net worth into this account. So whatever your net worth is, you can take it just up to 5%. You can start out with less, but the maximum the NCUA wants to see is 5%. You have to give at least 51% of your earnings and capital gains and donate those to 501c3s. The rule is you have to do that at least every 5 years. We recommend doing it annually because it's easier to keep up with. But you can give it all away if you like. You give 100% away, and some credit unions are doing that. But at least 51% of your earnings and capital gains have to be donated out. 49% earnings can stay at the credit union. You can do as you want with. They can go to earnings. They could go to help offset some other costs you may have, that type of thing. So the other 49% is eligible for you to do what you want. Key thing here is that last bullet point. You must stay at 5% or below net worth. So if your net worth is growing at 8% and your investments are growing at 10%, if that gets up and over 5%, then we want to. The NCUA is going to ask us to divest down to 5%. So they don't want you to have more than 5% into the CDA account. Any questions on that so far? One question I get often is that some credit unions have exec BIM plans and or pre-funding plans for their employee benefits. And the NCUA has a guideline on that of 25%. And people ask me, well, does this count or is this 5% included in that? And it's not. It's segregated. So either what you have on the impermissible or other investments in the SERPs or the pre-funding is not applicable to this 5%. This 5% stands by itself. A couple ways to set this up. Institutional money management is a good fit for the funding vehicle, but also there has to be either a separate custodial account, such as with a Pershing or Bank of New York to set a separate custodial account, or a trust. Here again, we just mentioned this a second ago. The distribution has to be documented at least every 5 years, and as I articulated earlier, we recommend annually. You do have to name your charities. So the NCUA doesn't care about the address, the tax ID numbers. They just want to say, okay, we're giving to hospice or the Habitat for Humanity, and here's the address. So you don't have to get a lot of detail, but you will need to at least name the initial charities you set this up. This list can be changed at any time. So it's very flexible. But the initial setup, they do want to see who you're donating the gains to. Then we need to document the program or create a plan policy statement. One thing we provide samples of all this stuff. We provide sample language, investment language, charitable giving language, etc. And so, but you can create your own as well. So they're fairly easy to establish. Well, we talked about state regulators earlier. State regulators are gradually approving these, getting on federal parity. Some aren't. Some don't know what it is. I know here in North Carolina, we're doing quite a bit of education with our state regulator up here, and I hope to have some pretty good, feedback from them pretty quickly. We do want to check with the state regulators for the specific rules of impermissible investments. These are fairly new accounts, and so I'm doing some education, and we have a whole group in Madison that helps us have a dialogue with all the state regulators. And so oftentimes credit unions ask me, is there some language that you guys have we can submit to the state regulators? And we do. We have some sample language as well. So that's out there. And then we work with credit unions and regulators to help get this approval. And that's part of that sample language that we use. We lead the teams that work with all these state regulators. We definitely want to see everybody get approved. So far we haven't anybody not approved, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer than we obviously anticipate it would take. But they've got a lot on their plate, as well. I'll pause there for just a second. So far, any questions anybody has? Okay, not hearing any. I'll keep going. A couple of big positives. Why establish a charitable donation account? It definitely can help generate additional funds for giving. Obviously, there's a variety of higher yielding investments other than what we just talked about, agencies and treasuries, and of course the 10 years, like I said, at 1.72. Other investment vehicles are impermissible, and we will talk about some of those as we get towards the end of the presentation. Retained earnings, as we mentioned, can be retained by the credit union, or they can be dispersed. And that's a great way to recognize board members. I get asked how that works. That could be, ABC Credit Union has board director Julie, and Julie has a really nice charitable or 501c3 she wants to donate to. The credit union can then donate on her behalf of her service to her 501c3 and recognize her for that. So that's been a real good positive for board members, because oftentimes they do a lot of work and having to do more and more work with all the regulations. It's a nice way to recognize some that are active in the community and serve on different charitable boards in their locality. One thing I wanted to mention too is when you set these up, there's two ways you can do it. One is you can set the charitable donation account, and the NCUA is going to want you to give to 501c3 charities. I get asked a question a lot. What if I get the local, Little League needs shirts for their T-ball team? If it's a 501c3, that's great. But if it's not a 501c3, you can't count it. You can still give the money because it's your money, but you can't count it towards that 501c3 designation. Or some credit unions actually set up a foundation. That's a little more onerous, and you can give all the money to the foundation. And the foundation is a 501c3. You can give it to anybody at that point. But 95% of my credit unions are basically given, they're setting up the account. It's just easier. It's easier to maintain. And one thing, with the Southeast Credit Union Foundation, it's a powerful foundation. Some of my credit unions in North Carolina are giving just to the Carolinas Foundation and some others, or they just give it all to the Carolinas Foundation to have them do what they want. And obviously, y'all's foundation, does a lot with education. Obviously, you've got disaster help, and very timely today. I think those y'all in Florida are definitely looking at a hurricane coming up, and it's going to come up here in the Carolinas, looks like too. So definitely something there to keep in mind to help the foundation. And obviously, Credit Union for Kids is something that the South Carolina or Southeastern Credit Union Foundation can work. Let's look at some of the investment options that you can put in these CDA accounts. They do have some some accounting implications, and we'll go through those briefly as well. This is an example of a credit union that currently, if you look at the, they give $10,000 a year by the credit union. If you look at the top graph, so we put $1 million in the investment portfolio, then designate that for charitable endeavors. Assuming we return 1% on that, that's a $10,000 donation, nothing really additional for the credit union. If we take that same $1 million and are able to get an investment allocation or investment product that gets us close to 5%, that would throw off, right at $50,000. And you can see 25.5 would go to the CDA or the 501c3s, and 24.5 would come back to the credit union. Another way to look at that is you have this new total. You got this 10,000 of original plan giving. One option would be to recognize another way to recognize one of your directors and do a 15,005 contribution in the director's name, or just a straight up 15,005 in addition to the 10,000 to all the additional 501c3s or single 501c3 that you have. The rates of return out there are anywhere between 3 and 5%, kind of depending on the risk profile that the board and the credit union looks at, and their trade-offs on each of that. Then we'll go into that in just a second as well. So the investment products, this is where you want to basically invest and try to get this return to help generate that kind of income. Annuities are an investment. Business-owned, corporate-owned life insurance is one. Investment managers using some Wall Street expertise there for getting into the equity markets and or dividend-paying markets. Or you could do a combination. So those are the four main ones you can utilize. The annuities, I'm not as high on. They tend to have surrender charges. Their fees are a little bit higher. The institutional investment managers all have different ways that they set their allocations up. Some are higher fees, some are lower fees, some are passive, which means they just kind of set it, forget it. Some are much more active, which is very customizable. As you move up toward that more active, customizable, you see a little bit higher fee base. Then obviously the business-owned and corporate-owned life insurance, that's much more of a conservative type investment, closer to around 3% return net of anything, net of fees. It has to be set up into a trust. One additional step on that. I'm not going to go into operation of that, and or a combination. So those are the four ways to do this, to set this up. Any questions so far?
I do have one question, Mark.
Sure.
How often are you able to change the charities that the money is allocated to?
You can change them basically at any time once you set them up initially. So if you name, say, 5 charities today, and that's in there, and then all of a sudden one comes to you or wants to be included, you can include that and just put it on the list after the list, so it's there the next time the NCUA comes in for his exam.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
like I say, these are fairly new, and I've had several credit unions that have these, and they've had several NCUA exams. And so far, they haven't been asked about them because I don't think the NCUA examiners quite know exactly what they are yet. So, not to say it won't happen, but so far they haven't had any question on this yet. But that's a great question. And the reverse is true. If you want to take one off, just remove it so that when it comes in, they come in the following year, you got your documentation on that. And I'm kind of going towards my wrap up here. It definitely allows you to enhance and offset the charitable giving. These things, I've been fairly covered up in setting these up because they just fit the model of credit unions. The boards get it. The community gets it. We've had several credit unions that just in a short period of time have seen tremendous gain, not only in name recognition, but they've seen tremendous options to open up their giving options out there that they hadn't had, and they're able to fulfill more requests that come into them. Most of them don't look as an income earning type kicker, but it can be. And then obviously you recognize the board members. There's definitely some due diligence involved in this. You want to make sure you know who you're dealing with. If you get into the institutional managed money accounts, you need to make sure you've done the due diligence on the manager, us if you're using us, myself, that type of thing. And those require more reviews. We do usually quarterly reviews on those type of investments because they change so much. You're in the market, and the market's changing pretty much all the time. If you're in more of a COLI type conservative investment, it's usually every 6 months to 12-month review just to be sure it's acting like it should. Do we need to change the investment, that type of thing. So, and then obviously, we help account, that just like anybody would account for the givings that you guys give out throughout the year. Then obviously the last one is to recognize our board members. That's kind of a quick run through of the CDA accounts. There's more to them as far as setting them up. Usually you have to have a board resolution, a charitable giving policy, and then we have to decide, what the risk profile is to see what the investments are. But it's been a fantastic way to see this. I think I've probably got 6 of these established in the last 12 months, and I got 6 on my plate. And I think a lot of people are out there. You maybe see more and more of this at trade shows and/or education opportunities throughout the country as you guys attend those. So, I have a question for the audience. Is this the first time any of y'all seen this, or have y'all heard more about it or seen some other, activity around charitable donation accounts? And then definitely any questions you all have.
I've seen them, but really haven't delved into them much. Yeah, do you have like an example of a credit union that's doing this, and how much they put in, and what their earnings are?
Yes, I have several, and I've got 2, one in Florida, one in Alabama, several in North Carolina, and they're all, the allocations we set up are all institutional managed money. We're targeting around a 4.5% net return, and because it's mostly high dividend, like utility stocks and Procter & Gamble and those type things, in addition to some corporate bonds that are throwing off the income, and we're getting around 4.5% net return on that. And what they're doing with it is they are, opening up to additional charities. We have one credit union that was able to book a fairly quick gain, and was able to potentially, help establish a library in their local community, and that was, something they've been looking at for a while. But those are out there. I think I would target. I mean, if you want to swing for the fences, we could probably put an allocation in place. Would probably push a 6 to 7% yield, but it would be having some risk involved. And most of my credit unions not only are charitable, but most of them are conservative, and they don't want to see a lot of income swing. Even though it's 5%, it's not that much. They don't want to, see a lot of negative potential, variability in the income. So, but yeah, so I'd say 4.5%, maybe 5% is kind of on the high side net return. I've got some in the 3s that are more conservative on that. What I am seeing is directors are going to the conferences and they're getting the material and seeing this, and they're coming back and asking the exec team to look into it or check into it. So I am seeing that. I hope I answered your question, but I'm seeing about 4.5% on pretty much across the board.
So, Julie, I'm assuming that you would be amenable if you were one of the charities.
Are you reading my mind? Yes, absolutely. And we do have one credit union in Florida that has been on board for quite a while, that they chose the Southeastern Credit Union Foundation as one of the benefiting charities. And it's a great way to donate quite a bit of money from them. We get about $8,000 every quarter from this particular account. So it's a great way. It helps us to develop resources that comes back to benefit you. So not only are you gaining from the higher interest rate, but then you're helping to create some resources that will come back to benefit your credit union as well. So yes, I'm all for, any charities that you support are great. If you choose the Southeastern Credit Union Foundation, that's #1 in my book. So yes, thank you.
Yeah, and some people ask me a good question I get sometimes is, what's the minimum? If I've got if I only got $500,000 based on my 5%, is that what's the minimum? And so generally there's no real quote minimum, but sometimes the money managers restrict. They need a minimum to get to them. If you're in the money management side, I would say probably 250 and up, depending on how much customization you want. The more customization you want, the higher the minimum. For example, some of our very active managers need $1 million to get to them. But then we have some passive type managers such as State Street or others that can do as low as 250 to get to them. On the Coley Bowley product, that's pretty flexible. I believe the minimums on that are 150 or so, but I haven't done anything that low yet. So I have to double check that. I don't hold me to that. I know that there is some flexibility with the Coley Bowley. But then you have to get somebody insured or have somebody consent to that. But the minimums, are kind of all over depending on how much sophistication you want to get to, and the fees definitely on managed money are anywhere from 80 basis points to 150 is kind of what I see depending on the amounts out there, 1.5. So that's kind of some general ranges that I see out there.
Right, and Mark had mentioned recognizing board members this way. I've also seen some credit unions that recognize some of their high-achieving employees this way. They ask them if there's a charity that is near and dear to their heart, and then use this as a way to recognize them as well. So a lot of options out there.
Yes, that's a great point, Julie. Also see some credit unions that have considered, pre-funding their benefits, and that's a big step, but they may say, well, the CDA account may be something we can get used to. Oftentimes, I'll encourage credit unions, if their 5% is, say, $2 million, maybe don't go into it the full amount. Go into it maybe a third, and then see how that works for a month or 2 or 3 months. And then if you're willing to, if it's performing as is, add the other $500,000 or $1 million or whatever, and use kind of cost average into it to make sure the board and the accounting folks and everything is set up correctly. So I'm a big advocate of kind of averaging into it if the credit unions are interested in setting that up. The one big thing from my past is the liquidity. The first thing I ask is, where's the bid? If you have to get out of this thing, we want to be sure we have something that's has the ability to move out of. If you guys all of a sudden start making loans at 10%, we won't have the ability to take that liquidity.
I'm just curious, are there any credit unions that utilize one of these accounts to provide matching funds for employee donations?
I have not seen that. I have not seen that yet. It's still fairly new. Most of the ones are just looking to get the investment set up and get it set up correctly, but that may be something that would be a great option to see if there's a potential way to match the match, so to speak, and encourage that. So that's a good question. I've written that one down. Good point. What's everybody think about these accounts? I'm kind of curious as to if your boards have seen them. Obviously, y'all are around the edges. I'm seeing quite a bit more activity around these. I think, Julie, in your travels, you're probably seeing a little more questions about them and ideas about them. This webinar is going to be recorded and out there for people to go back and review, and we can update as needed. So it'll definitely be a resource for you all.
I don't know how many people are on this, but I can say that at least here in the east coast of Florida, we have other things on our plate today. And
yeah.
that may have prevented some attendance here.
I understand. I was supposed to travel to Charleston tomorrow, and they've already shut down and it left, and the roads are all going one way west, and so I can't even get there.
Wow.
So they've already started. So I'm thinking about you guys and praying for that thing to turn, and not come up here. So good luck with that. Good luck with that. But yeah, any other questions? My contact information is obviously here. Julie has it. I'm easy to find. Fred Palmer is my counterpart down in Florida. Some of y'all may know Fred in Alabama. And obviously, you know, Community Mutual, like I say, we're pretty easy to locate. I live in North Carolina, in Winston-Salem, kind of on the western part of the state, so it's not too hard for me to get to Florida as needed. So I did speak to the league event, I guess, Directors and Supervisory Conference that was down in Destin back in June. I also spoke to a DCUC meeting out in Oklahoma. So you're going to see more and more, not just of myself, but other Community Mutual specialists out there, you know, continue to educate on the CDA account.
All right, and I just would like to thank Mark again for presenting today, and thank everyone for joining us. I know even though we have a little emergency going on here in Florida, we have 9 credit unions that showed up for the webinar, which I think is wonderful. I really appreciate that. And again, it is recorded. It will be available on our website. And if anyone has any further questions, feel free to reach out to me as well. Julie, Juli.Lewis, Lewis, @lscu.coop. Most of you have my contact information, so feel free. And I will also be sending a follow-up email. So if any questions come to mind, you can bounce back off of that and let me know, and I'll be happy to come and meet with you or give you a call and we can talk over the phone. So again, thank you, and I hope everyone stays safe, and we will talk again soon.
Yeah, thank you all for being on the call today, and we'll have good luck with this storm, and we'll hope to meet everybody soon.
Thank you, Mark.
Right.
All right, thank you, Mark.